Diwali. Okay, we all know it's the festival of lights, right? But I'm really curious to dig in a little deeper this time. What makes this celebration so meaningful, beyond the surface?
It really is so much more than just pretty lights. I think what I find so fascinating is how Diwali brings together these really ancient stories and beliefs and traditions. It all kind of weaves together and adds these layers of depth.
Right. That's what I love about these deep dives. There's always something new to uncover. So let's actually start with the lights themselves, the dayas. They're obviously like the iconic image of Diwali, but I'm guessing there's a deeper significance there, right?
Yeah. Yeah, you're right to zero in on the dayas. Visually, they're incredible. But the symbolism, that's where it gets really interesting. It goes back to this idea of light overcoming darkness. And that's a concept that you see across all of these different cultures and religions that celebrate Diwali. It's about good versus evil, obviously, but even knowledge over ignorance.
Whoa, I never thought about it as knowledge over ignorance. That's a really cool way to look at it. So it's not just about illuminating your house, it's about illuminating your mind, too.
Exactly. It's a time for inner reflection, for sure, but also for celebrating the triumph of good and really welcoming in positivity and new beginnings.
Okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Now, I did notice while I was reading the Wikipedia article, Diwali seems to be like a moving target date-wise. What's the deal with that?
Yeah, you're definitely right to notice that. Diwali is tied to the Hindu lunisolar calendar, so it always falls on the new moon, or Amavasya. But the thing is, that can happen in either the month of Ashvin or Kartika.
Wait, two different months. So is it kind of like Easter then, where it shifts around, but it's always in the springtime?
Yeah, that's a good way to think about it. So in the Gregorian calendar, what we use, we're talking like mid-September to mid-November. It all depends on how that lunar cycle interacts with the solar year.
Okay, so it's a moving target, but it's always rooted in that lunar connection. Speaking of roots, the word Diwali itself, it's catchy. Is there a story behind the name?
Oh, there totally is. It comes from the Sanskrit word Deepavali, which, if you break it down, literally translates to a row or series of lights.
Get out. So all those pictures you see with the houses lit up with rows of dayas, that's literally what the name means.
That's it.
That's way cooler than just calling it Light Festival or something. So we've got the lights, we got the symbolism, but now I'm curious about the history. When did this whole thing get started? I know Wikipedia was mentioning ancient texts. What's the deal there?
Well, Diwali's origins, they go way back. We're talking ancient times. It was probably a fusion of all these different harvest festivals that they had all over ancient India. And you actually see mentions of Diwali-like celebrations in some pretty old texts, like the Padma Purana and Skanda Purana.
Yeah.
Those were finished being written around the year 1500.
Hold on. So for like over 1,500 years, people have been celebrating some version of this festival. It
Yeah.
just blows my mind.
It's remarkable, right?
Yeah.
And it's even crazier. Even back then, those little dayas, they were tied to something much bigger, the sun's energy.
Really?
Yeah, the texts actually describe them as representing parts of the sun, like little pieces of its life-giving force.
So you're telling me that for over 1,500 years, people have been lighting these little lamps to symbolize the sun's power and the victory of light over darkness. That's pretty profound.
It really is. And it's super interesting that Diwali happens during the month of Kartik on the Hindu calendar,
Yeah.
because that's a time when the sun is actually transitioning.
Oh, wow.
So you have this really beautiful connection between what's happening in the natural world, these really, really old beliefs,
Yeah.
and then the festival itself.
It's amazing how deeply rooted Diwali is, in these natural cycles. But I do know India is a very diverse place. So is Diwali celebrated the exact same way everywhere?
That's a great question. And that actually highlights another super fascinating part about Diwali, all the regional variations. So while the core themes of good over evil and light over darkness, knowledge over ignorance, that stays the same, but how it actually connects to different gods and different events, that changes depending on where you are.
That makes sense. I mean, it is a huge and incredibly culturally rich country. Can you give us some examples of how it's different in different places?
Yeah, so like in some parts of India, Diwali is all about celebrating Rama's return to Ayodhya after he wins this huge victory over the demon king Ravana. It's a big story in the Ramayana.
Oh, right. That epic battle of good versus evil.
Exactly. Then you've got other regions where they really focus on Krishna, another important deity, and his defeat of the demon Nanakasura. And then, of course, you can't forget Lakshmi, the goddess of prosperity. She's connected to Diwali pretty much everywhere, but especially when it comes to ideas about prosperity and new beginnings.
Wow, so many different stories all woven into one celebration. It's like choosing your own adventure, but for celebrating the victory of light. I love it. But it's not just a Hindu thing, is it? I know other religions have kind of embraced Diwali as well.
That's right. Diwali's reach goes beyond Hinduism, for
Hmm.
sure. And each faith kind of brings its own interpretations to the party.
Yeah.
And, it's really interesting because this whole idea of light overcoming darkness, it kind of pops up in how Diwali is celebrated across different religions, too.
Hmm.
For Jains, Diwali marks the day that Mahavira, like a really important figure in Jainism, reached liberation.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Can you remind us a little bit about Mahavira and why that moment, his liberation, is such a big deal for Jains?
Of course, yeah. So Mahavira, he was this amazing spiritual leader, and he really emphasized nonviolence, self-discipline, this really deep search for truth. And his teachings became like the foundation of Jainism.
Right.
So for Jains, Diwali is about remembering his teachings and celebrating the idea that we can all, reach spiritual enlightenment.
I love that. It's so cool how one festival can hold such deep meaning for different faiths. Are there any other examples like that?
Totally. Sikhs, for instance, they celebrate Bondi Chor Divas at the same time as Diwali, and it's all about celebrating the release of Guru Hargobind. He was the sixth Sikh guru from prison.
I got to be honest, I don't actually know that story. What happened? Why was he in prison in the first place?
Okay, so Guru Hargobind was imprisoned by the Mughal Emperor Jahangir.
Okay.
But here's what's really interesting. On the day he was supposed to be released, Guru Hargobind, he refused to leave unless 52 Hindu princes, who were also imprisoned alongside him, were freed too.
Wow, that's a powerful statement right there. Standing up for what you believe in, but also fighting for the freedom of others.
Exactly. And that's what makes Bondi Chor Divas so important. It's a time to think about those values, justice, compassion.
I love it.
And, even some Buddhists, particularly newer people in Nepal, they've actually incorporated Diwali into their own traditions, even though it's not like a universal Buddhist holiday.
Mm.
And they also, really interestingly, focus on Lakshmi, the goddess of prosperity.
So we've got all these amazing, deep philosophical and religious meanings, but let's be real for a sec. Diwali's also about the parties, right? I was reading about the preparations and, man, the cleaning, the decorating, the new clothes. It just sounds so vibrant, so full of life. What stands out to you about those traditions?
It's a total sensory overload in the best way possible. You get houses covered in twinkling lights and these really intricate Rangoli designs. Those colorful patterns made from powders or flower petals.
Mm.
People are dressed to the nines. There are these incredible feasts with like mountains of mithai. You can't have Diwali without those sweets, right? And then, of course, everyone's giving each other gifts.
Man, it sounds amazing. Visually stunning and delicious. What's not to love?
Exactly. But here's the thing. All that outward celebration, it's about way more than just having a good time. It reflects what Diwali is really all about. Renewal, family, community, and welcoming in prosperity and good luck.
So it's like you're cleaning your house, but you're also cleaning your spirit at the same time. I like it.
Exactly.
Now, I know Diwali isn't just one night. It's a multi-day thing, right? I think Wikipedia said 5 days of celebrating.
You got it.
So break it down for us. What happens on each day?
All right, so it all kicks off with Dhanteras.
Oh.
This is the day for cleaning, for shopping. Don't forget about those big purchases we talked about earlier. And then, crucially, it's about welcoming Lakshmi, the goddess of prosperity, and Ganesha, the remover of obstacles, into your home.
Oh, nice.
People will often light these special diyas near little statues or pictures of them.
So you literally and metaphorically start Diwali with a clean slate. I like it. What's next?
Day 2 is Naraka Chaturdashi, which
Yes.
some people also call Choti Diwali, Little Diwali, like the pre-game celebration.
Okay, so the excitement's building.
For sure. It's another day for feasting, having fun, telling stories about good overcoming evil, and a lot of times those stories center around Krishna's victory over the demon king Narakasura.
And I'm sure there's still plenty of mythai happening on day 2.
Oh, absolutely. It's prime time for sweets.
Okay, do 1. Cleaning, day 2.
Mm-hmm.
More cleaning, but with sweets sounds good to me. What about day 3? This is the big one, right?
This is it. This is Lakshmi Puja, the main Diwali celebration. It's the night that coincides with that darkest new moon, and that's when all those lights, those rows of diyas, are just blazing in homes and temples. Fireworks are going off. Families are having these incredible feasts. It's magical.
The energy must be electric.
Oh, totally. It's like this really powerful shared experience.
Oh, wow.
Then on day 4, you got Govardhan Puja and Balapratipada. These celebrations are a little more, I guess you could say, grounded. They're about relationships, new beginnings, and appreciating nature.
So after all the excitement, it's time to, chill and appreciate the simple things.
Yeah, exactly. It's about remembering how important family is, your community, the natural world.
I love that. All right, that brings us to day 5, the grand finale. What's in store for us on the last day of Diwali? The fifth day is Bhai Dooj, which celebrates the bond between siblings.
It's a beautiful tradition where sisters pray for their brother's well-being, and there's even a custom of sisters feeding their brothers by hand.
That's so sweet. And of course, more gifts.
Always. And for artisans, this day is also Vishwakarma Puja, when they honor their tools and their craft.
It's like a whole week dedicated to appreciating all the different aspects of life and the people we love. And hey, if that means extra sweets and gifts, I'm here for it. But on a more serious note, it's clear that Diwali is deeply personal for so many people. But it also has this whole other level of economic and even political importance, right? Tell me more about that.
You're absolutely right. Diwali's impact goes way beyond these individual celebrations. Economically, it's massive for India. It's like their Christmas shopping season.
That makes sense with everyone buying new things, sweets, and gifts.
Exactly. And there's a particular emphasis on buying gold during Diwali. It's seen as a way to invite Lakshmi's blessings of prosperity for the coming year. But beyond just the economics, Diwali has also become a platform for cultural exchange and even diplomacy.
Really? Tell me more about that.
We're seeing it more and more around the world. Political and religious leaders are using Diwali as an opportunity to connect with their Hindu constituents, with Indian diplomats, and even with neighboring countries. It's a chance to participate in a celebration that emphasizes light over darkness, knowledge over ignorance, and the triumph of good over evil. These are themes that resonate universally, after all. You'll even find Diwali celebrations at places like 10 Downing Street and the White House now.
Wow, I had no idea it had become such a global phenomenon. That's really incredible.
It really speaks to the power of traditions like Diwali to bring people together and foster understanding. And speaking of global impact, did you hear about the Guinness World Record that was set just this year in Ayodhya, India?
I did, and what was it?
They created the largest display of oil lamps the world has ever seen. Over 2 million diyas were lit, illuminating the entire city.
That's incredible. You know, after hearing all of this, I'm starting to think I need to experience Diwali for myself.
You absolutely should. But for now, I hope this deep dive has given you a deeper understanding of this incredible festival. We've explored the history, the traditions, the beliefs, and even the global impact of Diwali.
It's been fascinating, but it also leaves me with a question, and I'm sure our listeners are wondering the same thing. What can we take away from the spirit of Diwali and apply to our own lives, no matter our background or beliefs?
That's the beauty of it. Diwali reminds us that light can overcome darkness, both literally and metaphorically. It encourages us to seek knowledge, to fight for what's right, and to welcome new beginnings. These are universal values that can inspire us all.
It's a beautiful thought to end on. So as we head into the holiday season, no matter what you celebrate, take a moment to reflect on the spirit of Diwali and see how its message of light, hope, and renewal resonates with you.
And that's a wrap on this deep dive into Diwali.